Welcome back to the ASUG News Studio. My name is Tom Wilgum, the co-editorial director of ASUGnews.com. We have a special guest in here to talk about BI4. Happy to have both of you here. Eric Barfield, welcome.
Thank you.
Eric is with Lockheed Martin, is in the Business Intelligence Administration group there.
Yes.
Welcome.
Thanks.
And Cathy Kenlin is a manager application at Zausner Foods. Thank you, and an ASUG volunteer. Thank you for all your service as well. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
So you both are doing presentations here. That's why I selected you to be together. I wanted to get both of your opinions on your company's respective approaches to BI4. What's been the strategies, the goals, and how it's gone so far. So Eric, maybe we'll start off with you a little bit.
Okay.
Can you talk a little bit about your group's approach to BI4 and why you started this route, and we'll branch out from there.
Well, we've been using SAP since the late 1990s, and we've used BW and NetWeaver products for about 12 years. So we found BusinessObjects to be more accepted by users, and we installed it fairly quickly at the 3.1 level, and then we went on and installed the 4.0 level and did the ramp up.
When was that? So that was last year?
Last year around May.
That's
about a year ago we
Okay.
did the ramp up.
Okay. Kathy, what about you? What was your company's initial approach to BI4?
Well, we had implemented ECC in 09 and 010 because Zausner Foods is a shared services for two other companies, for a U.S. holding company. We're owned by a French company that's global, and they have different SAP instances. So we have an instance in France, an instance in Germany. The German instance is using Cognos for their reporting.
Okay.
France is using SAP BusinessObjects. So we had first to evaluate which one we wanted to go with,
Right.
and then we decided to go with a business warehouse backend and BusinessObjects front end. We wanted to stay SAP because we're such a small shop. We don't have the expertise to support multiple platforms.
So was it critical that you went with the BW as well? Was that always going to be a part of the plan?
We did a lot of exploring, a lot of talk with different vendors, different companies to see what they were doing, and we felt it would be really good to have the BW backend, but we needed something that was easy for the users to navigate, to create their own queries, and we thought that was more, BusinessObjects was more friendly than a Bex query.
Right. Did you have that experience as well?
Well, I think BusinessObjects is definitely more friendly for the users. We had a much higher acceptance, and we still have a lot of use of the web application designer with Bex queries, but we feel like BusinessObjects is a better long-term tool.
Right. Going through the ramp up as you did, can you talk a little bit about that process, and did that prepare you for when you guys went live, and how did that work out for you?
Well, it made it a lot easier. We wouldn't have been able to go live in October or earlier because there was so much that we had to learn, and it was a benefit. We started ramp up halfway into the ramp up process, so we didn't have any major issues. It went quite smooth.
Right. Kathy, how about yourself? How are things going? Where are you right now in your BI4 journey?
We are a little bit delayed, but we are using the reports. We had wanted to have everything rolled out to the entire user community, but the key users, the power users, are using the reports, and we'll be rolling out to the entire user community next month.
A lot of what we hear about BusinessObjects is getting users to do a lot of the creativity, the creating the reports on their own. Can you talk a little bit about that? Is that a goal? Is that happening now? And how are you going about that?
Well, we found that Webby turned out to be a very popular tool, and users took up to that one, power users, quite a bit. Users always like analysis because it's in Excel. It's a little more effort, and specifically only for like accounting power users, not everybody. Some of our more serious developments all done in Crystal. And, I mean, essentially, people seem to like the tools from the developers, the users, power users.
Right. Kathy, we mentioned when we talked before a little bit about some of the challenges you had. Can you talk a little bit about those and how you've done to work with them and try and get them to...
We had some system challenges with 4.0. We had hoped that when we made the decision to go on 4.0 that it would be already out in GA and well established. SAP had slipped that date, so when we went on it, we actually had to go back and do a lot of review and build consensus with the business that we were going to go on 4.0 and not go on the earlier version. And they had to understand that risk and buy into that decision, which they did. So when we did run into some things, I mean, you're always going to run into issues with a .0 version. They were fully aware that they had participated in that decision, so it wasn't a IT, you did this to us. It was a joint decision. So we had issues with that. We had some issues going back to the ease of use for the users doing their reporting. All the vendors we had talked to, all of our early reviews, we had envisioned using a universe, and it would be easy to drag and drop and create these reports. But you've lost that ability with the 4.0. You don't have that semantic layer. So we're teaching our users to use a Bex query as their data source. We have 3 reports that use a multi-provider universe, but we had to rethink our approach. It's not going to be as easy as we initially thought it would be, but they'll accept it. We have some really good power users that are, diving in and learning how to do it.
Hooray for power users, right?
Yes.
That's right.
Talk about, could you give us a kind of example of how this has changed or helped make business processes more efficient at Lockheed Martin?
Well, we did a dashboard that brought in multi-source universes, which you have in 4.0, with some Oracle content, some BW content or SAP content, and SQL, and created a dashboard that was very useful to our production operations group. That increased our usage a lot, got people talking. It was very beneficial.
Right. Cathy, any early wins you wanted to talk about, things that are happening?
We really have the business working together. That we have 2 separate businesses we support, so they had to come together to agree on common terms, common reports, common approaches. We see a lot of benefits coming, but like I said, we haven't rolled everything out to the end users yet, so our key finance users are using the reports now and handing them out to other people. But it's a very important step in our BI strategy and our roadmap. We wanted to build the infrastructure, the ability to have ad hoc reporting, and then some standard reports. Going back to your earlier interview about the one version of the truth, that is so important to us.
Right. Is that as well to you?
Yes, I think so. I mean, we like to set a certain date and meet it as best possible, but sometimes that can't be done, and you have to stretch things out a little bit.
Being both SAP shops, has the transition been made easier because, was it actually initially the decision to go with BusinessObject because it's under the SAP umbrella? Did it make that decision easier on both your companies?
We debated for months whether we should go with BusinessObjects or not.
It was when it fell under SAP about a year or so after they had made the purchase, we started looking at it, and it just made sense at the time. Our acceptance of a lot of the BW stuff was high on the was good for the technical community, but we really needed to bring in a lot of the everyday users, and BusinessObjects gave us that more ease of use. So it really wasn't that hard of a decision to make, and it's turned out fairly well so far.
Well, this is the first Sapphire where you hear more in ASUG annual conference, where you hear more from SAP executives about the casual user. I think they once assumed everyone was going to be a power user and they would just love it and do it. And that's not the case. There seems to be a realization. Is that made easier in 4.0, do you think?
You struggle with that in any implementation. I think reporting is even more so because you have people that, if you give them a little taste, they're willing to dive in and get the data themselves. And then you have other people that just want the report emailed to them once a month, and that's all they want. And that's,
So can it be all things to all people, do you think, so far in your experience?
Yeah, we plan to schedule some reports that'll go out into a folder, and we're not going to email them to them, but it'll be in a folder that they can go get it. But then if they want the capability, they'll have the capability to dive in and create their own reports.
Well, there's still some items that are planned for 4.1 and 4.2 that we're going to want to utilize that business warehouse handles. And you know, we do have a plan potentially to retire business warehouse in 2014, but we're still kind of open to that. We're not sure.
Well, by that time, SAP will have sure something new coming out. Last two questions for you both. This week, a survey came out from the UK and Ireland user group talking about there was concern about support issues with BusinessObjects 4. Have either of you had support issues and concerns, and have they been resolved with SAP?
We did raise a number of OSS tickets as we were going through our development. I think they were getting a lot of requests, so you did get a lot of level 1 that you had to escalate up to a higher level.
Okay.
So I would have to call my account exec often, and we met with the regional support manager to get some of our issues addressed.
Okay.
Some won't be addressed until Feature Pack 3, so we're waiting for that.
For everyday technical issues, the response has been far superior to what I normally got with years of working with R3 and SAP NetWeaver. Usually I turn in a call in the morning, say 10 o'clock, and by 2 o'clock I have somebody calling me on the phone, which you don't normally experience with other SAP products. So I was very impressed with documentation and information. It's just a lot easier, basically, to me.
Last question for each of you is, you're speaking to your fellow, I know you probably do this all the time, but ASUG members who are on 3.x right now and are thinking about it, what's the one thing piece of advice you would give them? Eric, we could start with you.
Well, you know, you need to have a business reason before you do most of these upgrades, but your business reason is item 64-bit, and it works with multi-source universes. If you intend to install HANA anytime in the future, you're going to need this version. I would say in the next 12 to 18 months, you should plan on it.
Okay, great. Cathy?
I think you're right. It has to be, you have to have business justification for it, and you have to have a lot of business involvement in any BI reporting application. They need to be actively involved and engaged, and it's an iterative process. So I would allow extra time for like prototyping of the reports, and once you show someone a report, then they start thinking about other things they want, or it triggers that it's not really what I wanted this. So allow that time for the prototyping.
Great. And presentations, you are tomorrow? Is that
Tomorrow.
correct? Tomorrow what time?
12:30 to 1:30.
I just finished
You
mine.
just finished?
So
Well, you're
mine
all
was 3
done.
to
You're off
4.
the hook.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for coming by. We appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you.
Check out ASUG online for more interviews, as well as asugnews.com. And thank you for watching.